So my girlfriend that I went to school with, junior high and high, her sister was working here at Rockefeller, and she got her sister a part-time job because we were all going to school, and that was it. And she got my sister a part-time job, and then my sister got me a part-time job. So we found it was almost like a family affair at one time. And in the Abbey back in the 60s, waiting on tables was actually fun. I enjoyed it because of the students that were here. They were my age, and it just made it easier and fun to do. And so worked part time for a couple of years, and then one day our office was on the third floor. 317 was the food service office. Jane Cooper, who is the director, because the food service was in-house run back in the 60s. And Jane Cooper called me upstairs in the office and she said, Alzatta, there's a position, a manager supervisor position, and we'd like you to take it. And I said to her, well, I don't want it. There's two other people here before me. They should be offered the job, not me, because I just really got here. So she said to me, but they don't care like you and they don't have your personality. This is the job for you. I'm going to give you 1 week to go home and think about it. So I did. I went home and I thought about it and I said, gee, I really want a real job. I want a job. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I could be in charge of all these waitresses, do the menus and inventory, stuff that I really was not used to do, didn't know anything about. So at that time, the university chefs were all retired Navy cooks, and they worked for the Admiral. So they said, look, Alzatta, take the job and we'll help you. We'll help you with the menus and we'll help you learn how to do the inventory and stuff. And so I took the job and then I became really good at what I was doing. And the 60s, to come into the dining room, you had to have on a jacket, a tie. You had to always look dressed for the evening. You could not come into the dining room without being properly attired. You just had to look a certain way. And I always used to have a box of ties on the side of my desk. I always had these ties, and if someone, I said, okay, you did it again. You know you can't come in this dining room without a tie here. Thanks, Alzatta. And it was just a very different setup, very small. Dr. Bronk was president at that time, and Dr. Bronk loved the students. I mean, they were just everything to him. And when I became manager, I wanted the students who came into the dining room to feel that this was home for them. And if, you know, if they had an experiment or something that went wrong, I wanted to make sure that I made them feel better when they left. And surprisingly enough, I was told that in 2001, which made me feel good. But back then, it was very, very different. You just couldn't come in the dining room without being dressed, even breakfast in the morning, because breakfast and dinner was Abbey, and Welsh Hall was lunch for the professors, and downstairs in Welsh Hall was the ladies' dining room where the ladies and the secretaries and everyone ate. And then Smith Hall was the cafeteria where everyone could eat. So we had 3 eating facilities. From 1960 to 1973, 74, when Weiss Tower was built. When Weiss Tower was built, they consolidated everything into one unit. And that worked for a while. And then when Dr. Wiesel became president, he decided to bring in Restaurant Associates, and that was in 1991. And he called me in the office, because at this time, there were so many changes, and I've been through so many changes, that from 1973 to 91, I was in the cafeteria. it was so different. It was so totally different. Um, I had to open up in the morning and I had to close at night. And I did the orders for, some of the produce and stuff, but mostly the chefs and stuff. Because actually in the Abbey, I used to do the menus. And when I was the manager in Abbey, I used to do menus. So when the outside company came in, the menu doing, I stopped doing, inventory, I stopped doing. They didn't want me to do it. They just wanted their own people to do it. So that was taken away from me. But when I went to Weiss and I had to be the cafeteria manager, to certain things they allowed me to do. So I was allowed to do that. But it was very interesting. It was different style of managing, but I did well over there. And it's very interesting that you mentioned that, because I remember when Dr. Wiesel decided to change, and I was so confident in myself over there. And Dr. Wiesel said to me, he called me into his office and he said, Alzatta, you're much loved on campus, and where would you like to work, the cafeteria or the Abbey? Well, right then I was so frightened, I didn't really know. I said, the cafeteria. And he said to me, he already knew that I was coming back to where I first started, and that was the Abbey. And that was a blessing for me. And I've been here ever since. I love Abbey. I love this community. It's such a warm, loving community. I love the way that the community embraces me, and I embrace them with that same love, and it's a good feeling. Dr. Wiesel became president in the 90s, so things started to change back to the way it used to be, but not quite, because with the ties and the shirts, and but he made the dining room. It was like if you had a good meal and you felt relaxed, you go back and whatever experiment you had would be okay. I mean, you could go through it. So it was always good to have a good lunch. That's the food changed and everything started changing back to where we were accustomed to. But not right away, but it took time. And the 90s were really, really good. For me, some parts were rough because, I had to get used to a new complete food service because the Marriott was gone and I had to go into a new. So it took me a while to adjust, but some way, somehow, the community here always was there to back me up. So I was always able to succeed in pulling through whatever changes that happened. So I was able to be flexible and remain here